Well, a lot of you seem to be quite interested in the introductory video I did previously on GasWorks in general. Let me point out that I did find out, somebody sent me an email and let me know, or a comment one, I can't remember, and let me know that Hatton's has GaugeMaster gas holders. And these are the slightly larger telescoping type. So you can go there and look at Hatton's for gas holders, gasometers, some type of topic like that. They had 2 in stock the last time I looked. Also, if you go to the GaugeMaster website, they have them in stock as well. And those are 00 scale gas holders. They also have some in-scale ones that look to be more of a European design. So you might take a look at that as well. They'll probably come up when you do a search for gas holder or gasometer, which is also a name that they were described by. Okay, what I want to do today is take a look at some hints and tips that I have that I follow when building plastic kits, like the one that I'm going to be using. So let's go ahead and move on. Hit that little red subscribe button, and when the little bell comes up, click on it and click all. I'm going to be using the Cambria Ironworks kit from Concord to form the basis for the buildings used on the site. And I did that, as I said, because they represent a type of architecture that fits in very well with the era and the type of model that I want. I checked with both Walthers and Concord. Unfortunately, this kit is not in production right now. However, there are a ton of similar kits available from Walthers and various manufacturers in the US, Woodland Scenics, for example, City Classics. You've also got a lot of similar kits available from the European manufacturers like Bush and Fowler and lots of others. I checked, and in the 2017 issue of the Walthers catalog, there are 175 pages of building kits available to choose from. Not all of them are going to work, in this situation, but there's just lots of material out there. Okay, so what I want to do here is focus down here on the workbench, and I'll go over some kit bashing things that I'm already doing here on the building. Let's go ahead and take a look at the start for kit bashing on this. Now, I prefer to glue my buildings together before I do any painting and detailing. And there's specific reasons for that, and I'll go over that in just a minute. What I do as far as gluing them together, I use Plastrux Bonding liquid cement, and it comes with, its own little applicator brush here, and you can use that. I also like to use this device here, and it's available through Micromark. You can find that online in their catalog. It's a glue applicator. And it's got a little tiny capillary tip here, metal tip, set into this glass rod or tube. And you just put that in there and pull up a certain amount of glue here into the tube itself. And then you can just apply the glue to a glue line by dragging it along through there. And so it's a much better way of controlling the amount of glue that you're going to be applying, because this brush applies a lot of glue in one application, and I'll show you why that's a bad idea. Now, for this, let me go ahead and tell you why I prefer to do my gluing before I do my painting. Because I know some people like to start with their pieces for their kits laid out flat somewhere, and they just spray paint them or hit them with, brushed on paint, however they're going to paint them. And then they do the gluing together. Now, I prefer to do it this way first for 2 reasons. First of all, you don't have to worry about protecting the joints, because it can be a pain in the neck. You have to sand the joints, edges, before you can glue these together. Otherwise, you won't get a good, strong bond when you do glue them, because that paint that will get on the edges will prevent that glue bond from occurring and you won't just get a very tight fit. Now, if you decide that you're going to do that, you can, of course, apply tape, masking tape over the joint edges, or you can sand them. So what I do then is, I've got this jig. Now, this is a jig that I got from Micromark a number of years ago. It's a steel formed jig with these nice edges that stick up about 3/4 of an inch. And then it has these magnets here. And it comes with 8 different magnets. And you'll note here that at the corners, it's not a perfect joint. And it's on all 4 corners. These 2 are more open than they are on the other side. And I like that because it allows you, let me move some of these magnets out of the way, it allows you to set up your joints in those corners. It helps prevent one problem that occurs when you apply the glue on the inside of the joints here. Some amount is going to flow out by capillary action. It's just going to happen. And if too much comes out, and that can happen a lot of the times, it's going to get out and get on the exterior of the corner material. So you can see there was just a little bit that seeped out and got here onto this corner. This corner looks very good, no damage at all. This one, there's just a touch right there. And there's a little bit right here at the very bottom on this particular corner. But that's all. And part of the reason is that I've got this open area here on this side so that there's no metal in direct contact with the plastic for the glue to wick out into. So it helps prevent that anyway. But if you do get any amount of that, and it does fill in some of your mortar lines, you can just take your X-Acto knife and cut those lines again. Just etch those lines back in there where they've been eaten away. The other thing about this jig that I like is it allows you to take these magnets and you put them in place here and in places like this. And you can put another one here and another one over here and push it in. And it's going to hold that building in there, and it's going to stay square. So that's another reason that I originally purchased this, and I've been using this probably 20 years now. It lasts forever. I checked the other day. It's still available on the Micromark website. And they also offer various other types of squares and the like that have magnets built in that allow you to use it with this kit. And they sell various versions of this kit that have those squares along with it, and you can buy extras of these magnets if you need them. So that's the reason that I like to do this up front. It allows me to get the glue in there, and it holds the building up nice and square while I do it, and it helps to prevent that exterior damage that can occur. So I know people that like to actually apply a layer of masking tape on the corners. I highly recommend against that, because what will happen is that cement will work its way out through the openings there in the joint, and it's going to flow out underneath of that tape, and that's really going to make a mess. I've seen joints that were just totally ruined because of that. Now, one thing you can do afterwards is you can, like I say, you can recarve some of those details, or you can just go ahead and put the kit together and then put a vine going up the corner of the building here, or plant a big bush, anything like that that can cover up these little detail errors here. Because I do want to have this smokestack here sitting on this end, or one end of the building here, it's going to be, this end here, okay? So that'll be sitting right up there on this end of the building. Now, I don't think it looks very realistic to have all of these windows here on the side of the building where you've got a smokestack attached. I don't think they would have built it that way. So what I want to do is provide a flat brick wall on one end of the building where I can attach this chimney to, or smokestack, so that it's going to look at least somewhat realistic. Now, in order to do that, what I've done here is I've ordered some brick sheets, and these are a Wills kit, SS MP227. And that's available, through Pico. Wills is one of Pico's companies. And you can just purchase these sheets. You get several of these. I think you get about 4 sheets in a package from them. So they're fairly easy to get. Walthers also sells brick material like this, and there's probably other companies in the Walthers catalog that offer brick sheets like this. So it's fairly easy to find. So I want to have this sitting in here to create a flat brick wall here on the end of the building. And in various photos of gasworks that I have looked at on the internet, that's a lot of the cases. What you will see is a bare brick wall here, and then maybe a couple of windows here up in the upper floor, up in the attic area. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, in order to get this brickwork to fit flat, I'm going to have to remove a lot of this detail brickwork here. So what I've done is, and I've already started doing that, and all you have to do is take a chisel blade like this, an X-Acto chisel blade, and you can just carve off any detail work that is raised here on the surface. And so I've done most of this already to get it prepared. Now, I did decide to leave this one row of brickwork here and here between the two floors for a couple of reasons. For one thing, the pieces of brick sheet would not go all the way. Otherwise, I would have cut one solid piece. But I decided to just go ahead and cut 2 sheets that would fit in between or that would fit up to this and then butt up with that raised piece of brickwork there. So I went ahead and removed all of the raised brickwork on the windows, the top of the windows, those arches, and the below the windows, everywhere that there was any raised brickwork. The work that was underneath of here, everything just came right off without any problems at all. Then I took the sheet and I went ahead and cut out pieces that are going to fit right in here. So let's go ahead and we'll get these pieces of brick sheet set in place so that we will have a flat end to the building to work with. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and get my plastic cement and start applying some of that up in here. It takes quite a bit because it evaporates very quickly. And then we'll just pop one in here. And I'm going to hold it in place as best I can. And I'm going to work from the inside. And so you can see I'm just applying the glue to the window openings, and I'm going to let that flow out by capillary action all out to the sides here, and that's going to hold that in place. So I'm going to firmly hold that together while it's drying. Doesn't take very long for this stuff to set up either. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to be able to put a lot of liquid cement in here along these lines on the outer edge as well, because just having the glue that seeped in through applying it at the windows is not going to be enough. And in order to do that, I'm going to use this capillary applicator that I showed you a minute or two ago. And one thing, this material here, Bondine, it's a very, very nasty organic solvent material. Contains lots of very strong things that can be very, very dangerous to your health. You don't want to breathe it. You definitely don't want to suck any of this stuff up in your mouth. So never fill one of these by putting it in your mouth and then into the bottle and sucking on it. Instead, get yourself one of these. And what this is, it's an ear irrigator. You can get it at most pharmacies, drugstores, places like that. And it's used to, just irrigate your ears when you have an infection and want to get a bunch of wax out, anything like that. So all you have to do is take it and squeeze it a little bit. You don't want a whole lot. And then stick your tube up in there. And what that will do is it will create a vacuum. And then you just put the tube down into the bottle and allow it to flow up into the tube itself. And it's going to do that. And then you can pull it out. Hold it as you pull it out, because otherwise the sudden release is going to cause it to flow up into the irrigator. And then you'll have a whole tube full. I've got it up to about here at this point. And then you can just take that and insert the end of the tube in here and draw it along, and it's going to flow out down into that opening there by capillary action and fill in all along that joint. And you do that on both sides here. That's why I cut it a little bit short to leave plenty of room for cement to move in here. Otherwise, this would be a very difficult thing to glue. And you can also, in edges like this in the corners, you can bring it in through here, and it's going to flow down in there as well and fill in. And then I'm finally going to do one right over here. And that's it. It's almost empty now. And to get it to flow out, all you have to do is put your bulb back on, like so, put it back into the bottle and squeeze, and that will push it out. And you'll be able to see the bubbles in the cement as it flows out, and once it's emptied. Okay, so that's all that is to that. I'm going to go fill it again and do the lower section as well. Sometimes it takes a while, particularly once the glue has been used a long time. You get a lot of detritus, a lot of plastic crud in there, and it can definitely make it hard to fill again. There, it's doing better. So sometimes you just need to blow it out again. You want to keep positive pressure on it until you can pull it out of there. Otherwise, it's going to flow up into the bulb itself. I'm going to put a lid on this so that I don't drop it and knock it over. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and insert the second piece in here, flow a bunch on here, and start the glue flowing into the joint. Like so. And come around to the other side. And it is, you can watch the level of the cement dropping as it flows out into the surrounding joint. There we go. I'm going to hold that. I'm going to put a little bit more down at this end. There. And this takes a lot of the mess out of applying plastic cement in situations like this, because otherwise it would be very difficult to get it in here without getting glue all over your model. Now, then when you're done, attach the tube back to your squeeze bulb and squeeze it to express all of the leftover glue. There. Now these things, tend to get clogged over time. And one thing you can do to open that clog is take a small piece of wire that is stranded and strip the insulation off of it and take a single strand and run it up through this metal tube. And that will clean it out. That's one thing I found a long time ago. Otherwise, you end up throwing these things away, and they sell for a few bucks each. These are available from Micromark. They're under $10 each. And if you take good care of them and clean them out regularly, they'll last a long time. And I have also found that if you drop one of these into a brand new bottle of plastic cement, it will tend to dissolve any of the plastic, small pieces of plastic that will end up getting into the tip from the bottle, because I'm sure you've seen how bottles of glue end up with a bunch of leftover material down in the bottom of them. Okay, so that's pretty tight in there now. So that's what that's going to look like. We're going to have that building painted all the same color, and once it's painted, you won't even notice that I've done this modification here. There. Well, that's about it for the suggestions I have as far as cutting and pasting on these buildings and structures. Go from photographs. Don't be afraid to cut things apart and add new details as are needed. Now, one thing I wanted to start doing today was the painting, but suddenly we had a warm spell where we had temperatures around 70 for a few days, and then now it's gone back into the 40s during the day for the highs and 20s at night. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to do the painting I wanted to do. There are 3 different methods that I'm going to be trying out before the next video, or for the next video. And what that's going to be is, I'm going to first spray paint the building with the red brick color that I'm going to use, probably a primer red. And then I'm going to go ahead, once that is dried good, and I'm going to flow in the gray color for the mortar lines and let that settle down into the mortar lines themselves. And then as that starts to dry, you can come back with a cloth dampened with alcohol or water, whatever, and just run that over the surface and remove that semi-dry acrylic paint. And that way, it brings back the color of the brick, and it should leave most of the gray down in the mortar lines. Now, the other method involves spraying the building first gray to fill in all of your mortar lines, and then dry brushing on the red brick color. Finally, one method that I have tried in the past and wasn't 100% happy with is go ahead and spray on your red brick color, and then use some sort of a fine powder, such as plaster. You can use baking soda, anything like that that's going to be the color of your mortar. Work that with a brush down into the mortar lines, and then come back and wipe the surface coating off to bring back the original color of the brick. Hopefully that will leave the powder that you've applied down in the mortar lines themselves. And then you can spray that with some sort of a flat or matte fixative lacquer or whatever, clear lacquer paint, and I'll show you some of those. Finally, a fourth method is not to worry about the mortar lines, because in many cases, the mortar itself was a color similar to the brickwork, so you wouldn't have noticed it. The only places you really notice is where it is a striking white or light tan color, and then it does tend to stand out. But in a lot of cases, in industrial buildings like this, the soot and dust and the like tends to fill in these mortar lines, and you're going to cover them up anyway. And they're going to come out looking black almost after you apply your weathering to it. Because what I do is I take about a 10-to-1 mixture of India ink and just wash it on the whole surface, and it tends to obliterate the mortar lines that I started with. So what I'm going to do next week, before this next video, we're supposed to return to warmer weather in the 60s. I'll be able to get outside and do a lot of spray painting, because I don't do this inside of a spray booth. It doesn't fit in my spray booth. I have to go outside in the driveway to do it. And I tend to use aerosol cans of paint for a lot of this, because it's great for spraying large areas of buildings and the like. So I don't try to spray this with an airbrush. So that'll be the next thing, a test of different ways to do mortar lines, although one of them is doing nothing at all.